Now we are going to do a double snowflake card. The one we just did, this is a single snowflake card. On the double snowflake card, you'll notice there's an extra set of holes. We are going to make another single snowflake from these holes, and we're going to ignore the snowflake we've already done. So I'm going to put away my single snowflake, and we are going to work only with the double snowflake card. We will start just like we did with the single snowflake. On the back, we're going to tape our loose end of thread with a small piece of tape near the top of one of these holes. Make sure it's holding securely. Then I'm going to go through that top hole to the front of the card. And I'm going to show you guys something. Sometimes when you pull it through, it makes a yarn mess like that. Just gently pull it apart. Don't be impatient, just nice, patient, gentle pulling. And once it's all entangled, pull it through again. Nice and gentle. So back to the front. We have to look for these holes. Sometimes they get hidden under these threads, but it's exactly like the single. So I'm going from the top peak down to that first hole near the center. And I'm going to pull it through. And then I'm going to come down, and you got to look for them. So there's the next hole. I'm going to come up through the bottom into that next hole. Pull it through. And I'll come up here to this next hole down from the top, filling in this section again, just like we did with the single snowflake. Because that's what this is. This is a double snowflake. It's just two snowflakes, one on top of the other. And sometimes the thread just tangles a lot, and it just happens sometimes. So come down. Make sure you're coming in the next hole. Make sure there's not one hidden under there. I'm going to go in that hole. Okay, now I'll come in the next hole, right next to the one I just went through. I come across to the next hole down. Now we need to make sure that we don't have any hidden holes, so I'm going to come up through this hole right there. It's actually easier to see from the back, so you can look on the back when you get to that point. And I'm going to come across to the next hole. And then out through the top. Down. Looks like we're going to share this hole with a couple other threads. That's okay. No, we're not. That's not okay. There's our hole. It's empty. It's hiding. It's right there. Okay. That wants to tangle. We don't want it to tangle, so we'll gently tease it apart. And then that is our section. Now we're going to do one of these other sections. So I'm going to turn the card so I see the back. And I'll come across to this next empty hole, and I'll come up through the top, and then I'm going to go from, so I'm in the short end here, so I'm going to come across to the top over here, and I'll come down through that next little hole right there. Just look through my threads, find the next hole. There it is hiding. This next hole is not hiding, it's in plain sight, which makes it much easier. I'll go across to the next empty hole. I'll come up from the bottom through that hole. Come across to this next empty hole, so filling in another section, just like we've done several times at this point. So where's my hole here? I've got to look for it. There it is, it's hiding. So I'll find it, and I'll go in it. And I'll come up through my last hole in this section. Come all the way across to the top to this last point. So that's partially done. So I'm going to look on the inside. I need to fill this section and that section. So there aren't any empty holes. So I'm going to go across to this next top point and go through that hole. And now, so I'm at the top, so I need to come down to the bottom. So I'm going to come across to this point and go in that hole. And with all the threads sharing holes and all the threads crissing and crossing, it's good to pay attention to what you're doing and not be distracted while you're doing the double snowflake. Down one more, cutting across to this next empty hole. Give myself a little extra length on my thread. And I'm going to come up through the next hole. And I'm going to come across, so 1, 2, 3 down, there's a fourth. I need to thread in it. And then I'll go down one from that one. I'll come across to this next available spot. And then out through the point. And then across here, there is my hole hidden right there. I'm going to go in it, and the third section is going to be finished. So now I have this section to do on my double snowflake. I'm going to go on the inside, I'm going to cut across to this next short hole right there. Put the card back. So now I'm on this bar, and I'm going to go across to this bar. So I'm on the end. I'm going to go in through the top. And then one down from that point toward the center. Come across. To the next point. Across here to this third point down. Across to this next point up, hidden a little, but we'll just gently look for it. There, we're going to come across to this hole. through the last hole at the center to the last hole at the top. And that is our last stitch on the double snowflake. We're going to turn it over to the inside, and just like we did on the first snowflake, we're going to use a little piece of tape to tape our thread, and then we'll cut off the excess thread, and we'll close our card, and there we have the double snowflake card.